Hey everybody, this is Brian here, and we're going to be talking about my top 20 favorite musical, uh, vocal performances of all time. And we're going to be looking at the songs in terms of, uh, the original artist. If it's a cover, I'll give you the name of that original artist, and who's actually doing the vocals in the song. If it's like a harmony, like there's a song on here by America, for example. I'll give you a little sneak peek. Um, and obviously all three guys are singing at every point for the most part, except for maybe like there's like a second or two during the chorus where like one guy sings, but for the most point, for the most part, it's all three of them throughout the song. Um, and will tell you what that song is in a moment. Number one on this list is going to be Bring Me to Life by Evanescence, which is sang by Amy Lee. Um, this is, I think, one of the best songs of the decade and one of the best songs since the turn of the millennium, bar none. Um, I think that I really enjoy also the work she did with Seether and the work that she's done otherwise solo. But I think that this is really the apex like moment of her career, like where I think this is like where she peaked. Like this is the best song I think in her catalog, in Amy Lee's catalog, that is, in terms of all the different cumulative work she's done. But I really enjoy this song. I also like um, the video is well done, and I also like that guy singing those kind of generic, albeit uh, punk vocals that are kind of interspersed between her and those scenes where she's walking the sides of the building during the video. Anyways, though, it all works very well when you actually see it put together. A lot better than just me describing it to you, obviously. Um, Number two on here is going to be a song called Tobacco Road, performed by Eric Burdon, who's most famous of being the lead singer of the Animals. The band that does that song, House of the Rising Sun. He's the lead singer of that band. But he also has quite a great solo career, and I think he's one of the most underrated voices in the blues. Um, he's really he's really well respected, is what I meant to say. But at the same time, I don't think that he's really talked about in those conversations of who's the greatest of all time, or who should be put on lists like that. You don't see Eric Burden's name high up enough on those lists, if there at all. And so I think though he's well respected within the industry, I think Eric Burden is not mentioned enough amongst names that should be talked about as some of the best singers of all time. After he left the Animals, he was quite great. I think the quality of his vocals actually improved from just kind of a generic Beatles esque pop band to actually singing some really soulful music. This performance here, it's a live one, by the way, actually, of Tobacco Road is really, really stunning and really, really heartfelt. Um, Number three on here is going to be Gone Away, which is actually by The Offspring, which is the vocals are done by Dexter Holland. Um, and I think that this is an unusual song to put here because it's not just that this is a technical ability. This is more the kind of song where it's the emotion and the soul, that the feeling that's put, the sincerity that's put into every word that makes me inserted onto this list. Obviously Dexter Holland isn't going to be up there with someone like Aretha Franklin or Freddie Mercury in terms of what they can do vocally. But there's just so much feeling that's put into this, into the feeling of dealing with loss, whether that be of a relationship or someone died in your family or a friend. He manages to make all of that kind of an olive branch that's relatable. Um, I think that this song is fantastic in the sense that you just feel every ounce of pain and emotion, which can be good or bad. This song is a little bit depressing, obviously. But I think that Gone Away by The Offspring is probably their best song. Another couple good ones are probably Self Esteem and and that song where he's talking about I've got to get away, I've got to get away from here. Um, Man, I'm forgetting the exact title of that actually. Um, Never mind though. This is the song that's on the list. That's what matters. Let's get to number 4 on here, which is "Nighttime Is the Right Time," which is actually a song that other bands have done too. It's kind of, if you will, a little bit of a song from the Great American Songbook. But this is the Sonics doing it, and I think that it was Gary Rossily, is that how you say his name? That did the lead vocals on most of their album work, and you can hear the other band members doing some backing vocals behind him. Um, but this song is another one where it's just, especially for its time, if you consider that this was done in like 1964, if you consider the amount of edge and heaviness that's put into the guitar, not only the guitar, but into his vocals, he has a very Little Richard-esque vibe going on here, and he really projects that here in the sense of, just he inserts all those little vocalizations of, I'm not even going to attempt to do them, but those little wow kind of, that sounds ridiculous, I'm sorry. But those little things that Little Richard kind of almost Michael Jackson, before Michael Jackson, if you will. Um, he was almost the first one to do that before Carl Perkins or Elvis or Michael Jackson. There's a lot of guys who came after who did those little vocalizations. I guess it kind of stems from yodeling. But those are present in this song, and this is an excellent rendition of "Nighttime Is the Right Time," which is not really by any means a deep song. It's basically "Nighttime is the right time for to be with the one you love." I mean, those are pretty easy lyrics to understand. So it's not necessarily the depth, but it's more, again, the heaviness and the sincerity of the delivery in this that makes me put it on here with some of these more technical feats. Um, I think that their performance of this here is really, really stunning. It's another one of those instances of where less can be more. It's kind of like where in baseball sometimes a pitcher will perform an amazing game when they don't throw as hard as a guy who got his ass kicked. Sometimes it's more about something like peripheral. Anyways, let's get to number 5 on this list. I'm rambling. I'm sorry. Number 5 on this list is going to be "No More" by Pentangle, and sang specifically by Jackie McShee, which I hope I'm saying her name right. It's an English name. I've actually seen that name before. Is it Irish? Perhaps it's Irish. But anyways, has almost gospel levels of emotion in the voice, and just the heaviness with which her voice kind of comes down like a hammer is really, really impressive. And I feel that the only other singer who comes close to delivering that much heaviness with her voice that I've heard has actually got to be Sister Rosetta Tharpe, which you've got to go back a long ways, actually, even before Pentangle, which is a band that, mind you, broke up in 1972. So you have to go back quite a ways to find anyone who really compares with Jackie McShee's vocals on this song. They really, really come down like a hammer and just obliterate anything resisting. There's just no, I don't know, it's unbelievable and very hard to describe her vocals on this song. Anyways, number 6 on here is going to be going way back to like the 30s and 40s with "All of Me" by Billie Holiday. This is actually one of my favorite jazz vocal performances. This is a song my grandparents loved, that my mother likes, so it makes me think of my youth, and that's why it's one of my favorites. But also Billie Holiday's vocals here are amazing, and she puts character into her voice with these little mannerisms in places where she doesn't have the pure range of hitting 5 octaves higher or something crazy like that. I think that Billie Holiday manages to put uh, these idiosyncrasies into her songs where it's her, and you always know that she's giving you everything she has in every performance that she ever taped, you know. And you can just tell that by listening to her voice on every track. It's present and it's omnipresent, you know. And I think that this song is probably the best example, other than arguably one that you may hear about in a moment. There's a slight spoiler alert. That she'll pop up again, and she will. Um, but yeah, All of Me is arguably, I think, her best moment. I think that, you know, some people like that song Strange Fruit, and there's other ones that Billie Holiday did that were amazing. She had a long and very fruitful career, um, despite having to work as a woman and as a woman of color in a time when things had not been desegregated yet. And so that's very just impressive that she was able to get so much done when there was that many roadblocks against her unduly, you know. Um, so yeah, let's get to number 7 on here, which is going to be Fresh Air by Quicksilver Messenger Service, performed live uh, at Winterland in San Francisco on December 7th, 1975. There, I got all that information out. And the singer was Dino Valente. And this is a beautiful performance with excellent guitar solos too. And there's a dude who looks really funny dressed up like Luke Skywalker, so check him out too. And there's this other guy playing piano who's like totally tweaking. It's really, really funny. These guys are so wasted. It's really, really funny. You've got to check this out. But Dino's voice on this just has so much feeling. A studio song that, if you haven't seen this performance, that I could compare this to uh, would probably be from Red Octopus. Would probably be by Jefferson Starship. It would probably be uh, a song. Oh, I'm trying to think of the name. Oh, fuck it. I think it's on here later, anyways. Um, but yeah. Uh, let's get to 8 on here, which is going to be So Far Away by Stained, and the lead singer is actually Aaron Lewis. Um, this is not Stained's only appearance on here, but I think that Aaron Lewis really has his magnum opus in this song here. This song is on par with some of the greatest ones of all time that came before it. And though you might not put Stained up there with bands like that, and I might not either, I think that this song, in this moment, they were that good. And I think that Aaron Lewis was that good in this moment. And not that Stained doesn't have other good songs, because they really do. They have lots of great songs and lots of songs that have gotten like hundreds of millions of views on YouTube. They really do actually have quite a big fandom. So not that I'm saying they're underrated by any means. I'm just saying that this song is one of my favorite vocal performances, and I think in this moment, Stained, even though they might be kind of a middling band otherwise, in most moments, you might not put them up there with like the top 5 greatest acts of all times. But I think this is like one of the top 10 best songs, I might say. I don't know if you would put that up there quite that high, but I think that I would. And so, since this is my favorites, I'm going to do it anyways. Number 9 on here is going to be a song by Elvis Presley, which lead vocals performed by, yes, Elvis Presley, um, which is One Night of Sin. This is a very, very underrated Elvis song. You know, you hear a lot about songs like Blue Suede Shoes or, you know, Jailhouse Rock. And, you know, I think One Night of Sin is one of those songs that when they actually put it onto the radio, it had been edited down, you know. It had been edited down from sin because they were afraid that the word sin would offend people, you know. So they kind of circumcised, they kind of castrated the song, you know. Um, but I think that if you listen to the original version, um, it's a really beautiful vocal performance. He just pours his heart out, and you can see some photos in that video too, where you kind of see Elvis as a young man before the alcohol and drugs basically took his soul out of him and basically just vampirically just bit him, Number 10 on here is going to be another song by someone who appeared on this list earlier with the number 6 entry on All of Them by Billie Holiday. Um, this is going to be I Can't Give You Anything But Love, also by Billie Holiday. Um, I think that, frankly, this song, a lot of the same things apply to her that I said earlier about her really pouring her heart out and also adding mannerisms that are identifiable, even though she might not be technically up there with some singers that you might put in those with the greatest ranges of all time or something like that, or people who are their own songwriters, for example. Yeah, Billie Holiday might not have been a songwriter. She might not have had a 5 octave range, but you always knew, like I said earlier, that she was giving you her best. And this song, I think everything I said earlier stands doubly true for I Can't Give You Anything But Love. This song has some of her finest moments of just little vocalizations, little notes she hits where I'm just like, that's my favorite note in music right there. And I haven't found myself thinking that about other artists very often. So that's a at least personally in my brain, that's a high pedestal in my brain to reach. And I don't mean that in an arrogant sense. I just mean in the sense of my opinions, which is the only basis for this list, by the way. So don't get angry at that comment, please. Um, Number 11 on here is going to be Lullaby in Birdland, which is a song I actually have a guitar cover of up on this channel by Ella Fitzgerald. Um, this was a classic jazz song before she covered it, even, and there's other versions of it besides hers. But I think that hers is probably, it seems like something that was taken from a classic film. Her voice just really, I think, pours into every crevice of the song, and really, I think, in the sense that it really makes you feel uh, every every romantic sense that she tries to convey to you, And I think that there's points when other singers might just, be kind of trailing on, and they might just hit notes as filler. But I think Ella Fitzgerald really illustrates this song with her voice very well. Next up is somebody with a much they're not by any means obscure, but not famous for their singing, I guess I would say. And that's Bert Jansch, one of the most famous acoustic guitar players of his era, and one of the best of all time, and one of the um, I guess you would say the base founders of the band Pentangle, which was kind of like England's version of Peter, Paul, and Mary, or the Seekers, or something. Uh, but they were excellent surrounding Jackie McShee. They also had uh, him and several other dudes, um, and a stand-up bass player. Um, Bert Jansch, though, particularly his vocals on this song, I really, really like the chorus on this song, which is "A Woman Like You" by the Pentangle. They're doing the backing instrumentals, I think. And Bert Jansch is doing the lead guitar and the vocals, like the main vocals. I like when he says, "If I had a magic wand to wave, just I, I would send a dove to catch your love." I love that line so much. It's so beautiful. Um, I think that, frankly, Bert Jansch's vocals here don't get enough attention. You always hear about his different finger picking methods. You always hear about his different acoustic guitar playing or the bands he was in, but you don't hear about his singing. And even though he wasn't a fantastic singer, this is a really, really kick-ass song, in my opinion. Yeah. Number 13 on here is going to be My Cherie Amour by Stevie Wonder. I almost said Stevie Ray Vaughan, which obviously wouldn't have been right. Yeah, My Cherie Amour, I think, is one of the most beautiful vocals in Stevie Wonder's catalog, which is obviously quite expansive and a museum unto itself. I think that My Cherie Amour is something that makes you want to listen to it over and over again. It's not a song that loses its power after a couple of sittings, I guess you'd say. It's a song that I think that gives Stevie Wonder and his CD the strength to say, okay, we need to go back and order more stuff from this guy because he's the greatest singer of all time. And that's what I found myself thinking after I ordered myself my first Stevie Wonder CD, and this was one of the songs I came away really, really enjoying, and one of the songs I added to my playlist, and one of the songs that really I think made a difference on me in terms of what kind of music I like. I I think that now I'm willing to give things that have more of a pop kind of pop blues vibe to them. Give that more of a chance instead of just harder edge stuff. I came up around things that I guess you'd say involved a lot of electric guitar, a lot of screaming and shit. And that was just my generation, and that was also the stuff my parents listened to because they listened to hard rock. Um, but I think that frankly, this was a nice break from that, and I think that Stevie Wonder was a little bit of a nice break from bands like Metallica and Megadeth and a lot of the heavier bands like White Zombie and Seether and stuff. I think that this is one of those songs that uniquely stands out as something that's not just a screaming, you know, just it's not as heavy as can be. It's not a morbidly obese song, if you will. Um, but yeah, let's get on to number 14 on here, which is "I'll Be Around," a song that makes Howlin' Wolf sound so loud that he almost sounds like the microphone's not going to be able to stand his volume, and it's just going to like overload. "I'll Be Around" is just, it's one of the songs that I think predates the Sonics as giving rise to punk before punk. This is a song from the 50s, mind you. And this is a song that I think really kicks some ass and stands up on its own. And when you consider the time that this is in, you consider that Howlin' Wolf was a guy who, wasn't using distortion pedals and heavy modeling amplifiers and shit. He was doing this just with the power of his vocals and his electric guitar. He was a guy who was doing this without necessarily having to resort to cheap tricks. And this is a really, really immense song, a song by an immense man. We'll take a little bit more of a mellow turn now to a song by Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, which is mostly, though, sung by David Crosby. It's written by him, and the lead vocals are sang by him, though the other band members are present on the song, which is why I mentioned their name. And it's on the Deja Vu album, I think yeah. Anyways, David Crosby, though, talks about this issue that a lot of hippies face. This issue of, should I become part of the system? Should I cut my hair off? And, like should I basically join the Borg? Kind of. I think this was obviously well before the Borg term even. But yeah, this is, should I basically cut my hair and become mainstream, or should I keep my hair? And he talks about in the song, quote, letting my free flag fly. And I've heard this song actually mentioned as something that helped give rise to long hair being kind of a symbolic or emblematic of the movement, and that's pretty cool. And David Crosby, for all his mistakes and all the candid things that he's done in his career, that's a really, really cool thing to be the guy who sang that song. And it's a really, really well sung song, even for the parts that aren't words and are just vocalizations. Almost Cut My Hair is a really, really Fantastic song that I think talks about an ideological issue that a lot of people face, but not a lot of people really talk about. We're going to talk about number 16 on this list next, which is Scar Tissue by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. This was actually the first song that I ever heard. I was driving through in my brother's car. I was a little kid, maybe 2 or 3 years old, and this song was on the radio. Um, the song, by the way, is sang by Anthony Kiedis, since I did say I would mention who did the lead vocals in each song. Anyways, though, this is a special song to me because it's one of the first songs that I got into singing through. It's one of the first songs that got me into the Red Hot Chili Peppers, which, though I'm by no means an expert or super fan at, I do like quite a few songs from them, and I like their style. Um, and this song opened that door for me. So I also just kind of look at it as one of my cardinal introductions to music, and that's pretty special to me. So I think it deserves a spot on this list. Um, Number 17 on here is going to be the song Black by Pearl Jam. Um, this is a song uh, about Eddie Vedder struggling to deal with loss, particularly I think a relationship loss, not being able to deal with someone leaving him and the idea that they're happy somewhere else and they've moved on, but he's just basically sitting there and he views himself as more pathetic as ever, and it's a self-denigrating and very depressing song. And I put it on here because I feel every emotion has its place. And though this isn't a song that you're going to listen to with your cup of coffee to get you going in the morning, it's definitely one of those songs that has the raw nature, that has the sincerity in its emotions to actually, I think, make it something that you would put on if you were feeling this way. If you were feeling like just completely down and out. And it's that kind of song, and it's the kind of song that you would turn to, I think, for something to relate to in your kind of lowest moment. And that's a special place to be, even if it's not the kind of song that you would turn to every day to, get the party going, so to speak. Number 18 on here is going to be a little bit of a different vibe, and that's going to be Ventura Highway by America, and they're harmonizing on this, so I don't really think it's just right of me to mention one of the band when there's all three of them singing here throughout the song. I love the colorful imagery in this song. It makes me think of things by Bob Dylan a decade or two earlier, in the early 60s. I guess that would be more around a decade and a half. But yeah, I think that Ventura Highway is one of those songs that made me want to hear more of America and get into songs like Tin Man and Sister Golden Hair, and I think that it made me want to get their album and just hear things beyond Horse with No Name. And Ventura Highway is one of the things I have to thank for that. Number 19 on here is going to be something else by Seether, but also something else by Amy Lee, actually, which is their combined version of Broken. Seether, specifically Sean Morgan on the vocals, featuring Amy Lee, doing a version of Broken, where the video takes place in like a broken down trailer park. She's got like these nasty looking angel's wings. Well, not nasty looking. She's obviously always beautiful, but you know what I mean. Anyways, yeah, and he's sitting there with an acoustic guitar. Basically, I guess it's like an angel and devil on your shoulder kind of a thing. Yeah. Let's look at number 20 on this list now. There's also another version of this song just by Seether if you want to check it out, which is Put a Spell on You by Creedence Clearwater. It's John Fogerty singing. This is originally a Screaming Jay Hawkins song. He's not very pleasant to listen to my ears, but he is the original artist. So if you want to hear who this song came from, and who got the bigger hit out of it, probably Creedence Clearwater. But who did the original? Well, it is still a Screamin' Jay Hawkins song. Though it is John Fogerty singing on this version, may I mention again. Um, this song, I think, has some really, really soulful vocals. It's another one of those songs that I think reaches into that bag of those kind of gritty vocals that you'd hear in a gospel song. Um, you know, I think that's probably the kind of place where Little Richard reached when he got his vocal screech from. He reached down into there and he probably heard the pastor screeching and howling, and the just getting into all sorts of spirituality, looking for that way to replicate that. I think that John Fogerty succeeds here actually in replicating a degree of soulfulness that most singers don't really ever get to. And this song has that kind of almost gospel vibe to it that I think is almost a level of soulfulness that most bands, again, don't reach. And that Creedence Clearwater didn't reach on every song by any means, But I think that this is their magnum opus. This is the best song in their catalog, at least in my opinion. And again, if you want to have a good laugh, go check out the Screamin' Jay Hawkins part. He's certainly dressed very theatrically, I will say. Um, Though you may see some stereotypes that he's kind of promoting with the way he's dressed that are not currently PC anymore. I don't know. Anyways, though, Put a Spell on You by Creedence Clearwater. I think that this is one instance of a cover artist getting probably more publicity out of a song than the original artist. And I do like Creedence Clearwater, their version of this song more. But I do think that, Screamin' Jay Hawkins should get some credit for being the original songwriter, as ridiculous as his version may seem. But anyways, I wanted to talk about my favorite songs, and especially my favorite vocal performances on here. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate your time. I love you guys because you're you, and I'll see you guys again all soon.